welcome to my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you are interested in a private reading, I do readings in astrology on a variety of topics ranging from relationship readings to career to transits for 2-3 years, or solar return charts or predictions for 1 year, etc. You are free to email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and reading options and any other details that you might require. Also, I want to mention that I have started membership options on this channel, and the short of it, just to give you the short perks that you will get if you choose to join the membership section, you will get 1 extra video per month for each membership stage or tier. So for the first tier, you will get 1 extra video per month. For the second tier, you will get 2 extra videos per month, so you will have access to level 1 and level 2 videos. And for level 3 or third tier, you will get 3 extra videos per month. The level 1 and level 3 videos are going to be on a variety of topics, so basically anything related to astrology, but it will be content that is not shown on my regular usual videos, right? So this is members only exclusive content, and it can range from, tips and tricks on how to read a horoscope to, I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing maybe members only astrological synastry for famous couples, for instance, or the analysis of famous people's horoscopes, but then I can also get into divisional charts, etc., etc. So all kinds of things. The level 1 or second tier of membership options is especially related to synastry astrology topics, meaning relationship-oriented astrology. So this could be things like how to discover which kind of partner archetype is right for you according to your horoscope, or it could be, again, different characteristics, whether you're going to have a good marriage according to your horoscope or a less than stellar marriage. But you can find more concrete examples in the lists that you will find in the video description, because I have added the playlists where you can already see all the videos that I have posted in each members section. So yeah, you can see what videos you will have access to from the ones that I have already done. But I will continue to post, like I said, 1 extra video per month for each level of membership. And in addition to that, in the members only section, you will have access to members only polls, and you will also have priority when it comes to getting your comments replied to on my channel. And you will also have stickers that basically show up next to your username that show that you are a member, and a couple of exclusive emojis. All right, so that's pretty much all the perks that you can have as a member on my channel. If you're curious, you can check the video description for more details as well, or you can click the join button under any of my videos to also see the prices, because the prices will be shown in your local currency. All right, in addition to the members only section, I also have a tarot channel, and I post there semi-regularly, and I will be linking the tarot channel in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. It's called Martine's Tarot. So if you are curious about tarot, if you're into it, maybe check out my channel, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this intro. And now I'm going to get straight into today's topic. Hello and welcome to my channel. So this is going to be the predictions for 2025 series. I know that I should have started a while ago, and for a bit I was kind of hovering back and forth between should I still do this series, should I not do it? Those of you who have been watching my channel for a few years, you probably remember that I have done these predictions for, the year in question, like yearly predictions, a way back. I think I started with 2021 maybe. And I don't remember exactly if I did them until 2023 but I definitely didn't do them for 2024 because I did say at that time also I was running late and I didn't really have the time or energy to focus on them, and they are quite time consuming. But this time I said, you know what, F it. I feel like it's time to do the prediction series, and I did do a poll in my community page some weeks ago. I think it was more than a month ago, to be fair, and I asked how many of you would like to see your predictions for 2025, and pretty much an overwhelming majority said that they would be interested in seeing it. So I figured, hey, I'm not that late because 2025 still has at least another 11 months to go, so I figured better late than never. So here it is. I'm going to start with the predictions. As an introduction, I do want to say, again, mostly for those of you who have watched these prediction videos in previous years, you probably remember that generally I like to divide the year into subsections. This year was really complicated to do, so I'm not going to be able to do a chart for each subsection, because if I had to do that based on the planets that I normally look at for general predictions, which are Saturn, Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter, I would have had to divide the year into like 5 different charts and, compute 5 different charts and arrange them and all that. So I chose to divide the year in just 3 different charts, and then 2 of those 3 charts have subdivisions. But you're going to see what I'm talking about in a more visual way when I get to each subdivision. You will see a chart with the general transits and more details on them. I do want to start talking about, I want to mention, okay, I'm not going to hold a long speech, but I want to mention again, just as in previous years, I have decided to focus on, like I said, Saturn and Rahu, Ketu, and then Jupiter, because these are the more slow-moving planets, so they spend a longer time in one sign. So obviously, it doesn't mean that these are the only transits you're going to be going through in 2025, because all the planets are transiting, right? As you probably know, the sun is going to be spending about 30 days in one sign. That's why everyone knows that they're born in Aries or Gemini or whatever, or, what all of the people who know their zodiac signs know, which is that the sun changes every month, like every roughly 30 days or so. And in addition to the sun, of course, there's the other planets. So each of them are going to be transiting through a sign. But because these are general readings, and of course it would be impossible to look at everything, because even with these readings, you're going to see, I think they're pretty detailed. I'm going to go pretty much in detail with a lot of things. But it would have been even more impossible to take into account all the transits. And then, of course, speaking of the subject of predictions, you also have to look at the dashas and the mahadashas and the antardashas and all the different types of dashas that you're going through, which are basically periods of your life that are ruled by a particular planet or a point like Rahu Ketu based on your time of birth, right? So every person is going through their independent individual dasha or sub-dashas, right? And like I said, there are also multiple types of dashas, but I'm not going to get into that. Those of you who come from Vedic astrology, and again, those of you who have been watching my videos for a long time, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The rest of you, I do recommend that you also do a little bit of research, and you can also find some videos on my channel where I do briefly mention dashas and antardashas, although I don't think I've ever done a video that where I specifically focused on how to read dashas and antardashas. I don't know, maybe I should look into that. If you're interested, comment in the comment section. But this was the introduction. Another part of the introduction, actually, that I want to mention before I get into it is that you're going to see this on the charts that I have drawn, basically. that I have marked the aspects of the main planets, but I just want to remind you, just in case you have forgotten. Again, those of you who have watched my channel for a long time, you probably know this already, but as a recap, if you're looking at Saturn, according to Vedic astrology, Saturn has so-called special aspects. In fact, multiple planets in Vedic astrology have special aspects or one-sided aspects. So Saturn aspects the 3rd, the 7th, and the 10th houses from where it sits. Rahu, Ketu, and Jupiter aspect the 5th, aspect the 7th. Well, the 7th is not relevant because they're always in opposition to one another. So Rahu and Ketu are always opposite. So it's not really relevant to look at the opposition because that's where the other one is placed. But Rahu and Ketu are aspecting the 5th, the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th placements from where they are sitting. Also, of course, I didn't mention this, but of course they're aspecting and they're influencing the houses that they're actually sitting on, not just the aspects. The houses they're sitting on are the most powerfully impacted, but they also cast single-sided aspects. So yes, Rahu and Ketu are always in opposition. So that means if you have Rahu in the 1st house, Ketu will be transiting in the 7th house, right? Because they're always opposite one another. That's why on the charts that you're going to see, I have not even marked Ketu on the horoscope because it's understood that, you know, Ketu is in opposition to Rahu. And I might mention Ketu in the readings a little bit, but mostly I'm going to be focusing on Rahu. Another mention that I think is quite important is the fact that I have written down on the charts that I have drawn, I have written down the time intervals where when these transits are going to be active. However, these time intervals, they are general. So bear in mind that the dates of the transits can vary by a few days depending on your location. So in order to know exactly when, let's say, Saturn is going to hit your 11th house, if you have Ascendant in Taurus, you have to actually compute your chart and do a transits calculation based on your actual physical location to know exactly the day and the minute when, you know, it's going to switch from Aquarius to Pisces, just to give you an example. But the dates that I have chosen are, you know, pretty accurate. Give or take, you know, 1 to 3 days, I would say tops, right? This is another mention. So, aside from this, yeah, I'm gonna get straight into it. Oh, there's one more thing that I wanted to mention, which is that, again, you may remember this from previous years if you have been watching my channel for a long time, that I like to do my predictions in a random order. So what I do is, right now I actually have Astro Dice. Last time I used to just pick, you know, notes from like a little urn that I created myself. I would, you know, basically do like a raffle thing where I would pick each sign that I was going to do next in the series. But now I use Astro Dice, and I like to mix it up a little bit just because, I don't feel like it's fair that Aquarius and Pisces are always last and Aries is always first, you know? So, I don't know. That's one aspect, and another aspect is, I don't know, it's just more fun this way for me to just do them randomly in a random order, and I pick the next sign, you know, by rolling a dice. So, just wanted to mention that in case maybe some of you are wondering why they're all scrambled. All right, that's pretty much what I wanted to mention, and this is the introductory part. There is going to be the same introduction for each of these videos, so if you listen to it once, you can, you should just listen to it once. Oh, yeah, there's one more thing. There's one more thing that I want to mention, and again, I have mentioned this in previous years. You can apply these readings for your ascendant sign or your moon sign. And I'm talking about the ascendant sign and moon sign of the D1 chart, the D1 natal chart, not any of the divisional charts. Okay, I cannot vouch for divisional charts. You can also try to look for, I don't know, maybe look into it, tell me if you found some kind of weird coincidences with divisional charts, but I would not look into it because divisional charts are something else, all right, a different type of energy. But with respect to, the moon and the ascendant, you can definitely look at these predictions based on your moon and your ascendant sign, and there will be accuracy connected to it. With the moon sign, it's more to do with your internal landscape and your emotions and what makes you happy on a psychological plane. Let's say, what happens on your inner landscape more, not so much like actual physical things that are happening in your surroundings, right? Whereas the ascendant is a lot more about actual life events. So something to bear in mind. All right, that's pretty much it, and I'm going to get straight into the interpretation right now. Oh, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to another predictions for 2025 videos. So today's topic is going to be about Gemini predictions for 2025. And I'm going to start with the phase 1. So I'm going to get straight into it. So phase 1 is referring to the period that starts on January 1st, 2025 to about March 26th, 2025. And this is when Saturn is going to be in Aquarius, Rahu is in Pisces, and Ketu is in Virgo. Jupiter is going to be in Taurus. Basically, this is a continuation of the previous transits, the previous months of 2024. And to be honest, I haven't studied exactly how many months back the same transits have been active, but they have been active definitely for a while. So during this time for you, Gemini, first thing that is important to notice is Jupiter is transiting through the 12th house. The 12th house, which is the house of spirituality, it's also the house of losses, which makes it an interesting place for Jupiter to transit, because Jupiter is the great benefic, so you would think, well, this is kind of a antithesis of meanings here, like paradoxical meanings, one of them being very benefic, the other one not being particularly benefic. However, even though the 12th house does tend to have a negative connotation, especially in Vedic astrology, it's one of the Dusthana houses, Jupiter transiting here can actually make losses go in your favor. And some of you may remember that I have mentioned something similar in other videos, more specific videos. I do remember talking about this. I don't remember exactly with which topic, but the bottom line is that when Jupiter is transiting through the 12th house, either from the D1 or from the Chandra Lagna chart, it tends to show that you could actually gain through losses, through hidden enemies, through foreign travel, import, export, also matters that have to do with religion, and also very far away places. So not just any kind of travel, but especially far away places, far away cultures. So it could be like different continents a lot of the times with the 12th house. But especially for those of you who maybe, again, if you stand to lose a job, for instance, and you're transiting, you have Jupiter transiting the 12th house, a lot of the times what that could show is that you might be getting a very decent compensation package, for instance, for having to leave a particular workplace. Or, for instance, you could be involved in a litigation and it could end up, bringing you money, winning in your favor, So that's one way to look at it. Aside from that, Jupiter transiting the 12th house in general tends to show that, well, you would derive some benefits from maybe detaching from the world around you during this time. You might actually be enjoying, spending more time inside your little comfort zone, in your nook. Maybe even, not socializing as much as usual, even though Gemini Ascendant tends to be quite comfortable socializing a lot of the times. You might also derive a lot more pleasure from not just solitary activities, but particularly spiritual activities. So things that have to deal with, self-growth, self-development. I don't want to say the self-help field, not necessarily self-help, But, you know, meditation, maybe something to do with sleep therapy, dream works, and stuff like that. So anything that has to deal with the subconscious states of the mind could be something that you're going to be particularly drawn to during this time and might really benefit from. So even things like lucid dreaming, if you've been into that, if you've heard about that. Now, Jupiter is going to aspect the fourth house as well, and the eighth house. So eighth house is one of the other Dustana houses, by the way. So it's one of the more negative houses in Vedic astrology, together with the sixth and the 12th houses. But in your case, there could be some benefits to be had from these placements. So for instance, Jupiter going through the eighth house means that during this time you might experience some positive things with respect to finances, taxing, anything that has to deal with, you know, money, but especially organizations that manage other people's money. So you could be dealing with an accountant, an insurance broker, I don't know, real estate broker, anything like that. And somehow you might have favorable interactions. If you have been waiting for, let's say, the resolution of a particular case that you have been involved in, this might really end in your favor during this time, especially if you're having to deal with these organizations that I mentioned. It might be easier, for instance, to take on a bank loan during this time, any kind of a loan. By the same token, it might also be easier for you to pay off your debt during this time. And aside from that, the fourth house aspect of Jupiter shows that you're pretty content with your home environment. You might really enjoy, you know, spending time at home in your little comfort zone. So this kind of falls hand in hand with the Jupiter going through Taurus in the 12th house as well. This is generally just showing, you know, that you may not have as strong of a desire for adventure during this time as usual. Yeah, you might really just enjoy the comfort of your home. You might even have an urge to change something around your home, like redecorate, enhance something in some way. Jupiter tends to be a very expansive energy, so it tends to grow all the time, looks for ways to improve things. So aspect on the fourth house, that tends to show you might be improving your living environment somehow. Also, Jupiter is aspecting the seventh house from itself, which is the sixth house in your case, which tends to show that if you have had any kind of health issues, even though you also have some negative impact there with Saturn and Rahu, this ultimately will not turn out to be anything serious, because Jupiter, again, being the great benefic, tends to annihilate all the other negative impacts of Rahu and Saturn or any other planets that are sitting there. So for the most part, this is a good time for you health-wise, and might be a good time for you to, you know, heal certain ailments if you have had health issues. And it's also a good time generally with respect to health, like no major problems during this time. Or even if you develop some kind of ailments, most likely they're going to heal pretty quickly. Now, aside from that, Jupiter in your natal chart rules the 7th house. It also rules the 10th house because it rules Sagittarius and Pisces. And this can also bring a potentially negative aspect in the sense that the Lord of the 7th house is transiting through the 6th house, which is also the house of competition and arguments, among other things. So this can show that you might have more than usual amounts of arguments with your romantic partner, whether this is the spouse or the long-term romantic partner, which is signified by the 7th house. You might find that you end up in more arguments than usual. If you have found that this is an issue in recent time, bear in mind that it might be made particularly worse by this transit. So, well, just try to be understanding and to put it into perspective. And, bear in mind that it might get better after this Jupiter and Taurus transit is over, which has been going on for a while. Aside from that, Jupiter ruling the 10th house, so the 10th house Lord transiting through the 6th house. In the most literal way, this could also mean that something in your work environment is negatively impacting you. especially your health. The sixth house is the health. This could also, of course, show more arguments than usual, maybe with your coworkers or people in the work environment, especially since Rahu is going through the 10th house as well. Also, about Rahu in the 10th house, I'm going to, slalom into the Rahu placement because I'm pretty much done with the general themes of Jupiter. Oh, one last thing that I want to say about Jupiter is that going through the 6th house is that this might be a good time for you to handle pets. You know? And you might be thinking about getting a pet, or if you have a pet, this is just going to be a good time for you to spend with pets and all that stuff. But aside from that, right, so having the Lord of the 10th house going through the 6th house, this could show that there might be, like I said, there could be some more than average, more than usual levels of competition at the workplace, maybe arguments happening as well. And with Rahu going there, this could also be a time when you have to deal with potentially narcissistic environments at the workplace. So it could be superiors, could be, co-workers that are fake, that are two-faced. So you have to be really careful. You also have to be careful about any kind of a work contract during this time. Be careful that you don't get swindled in any way. Be very attentive to details and read the fine print is all I can say. Because Rahu tends to rule people who are two-faced, people who are deceitful by any means that they can get their hands on. And people who are very self-seeking and very selfish and really narcissistic. There's no other way to put it. Another traditional way to look at it is that Rahu rules Parvenites. People who are trying to parveen, as in pretend to be something they're not, fake it till you make it. You may have heard that phrase, but in the worst way possible. So yeah, Rahu is pretty much known to be the master of deception. So the fact that it's transiting through the 10th house, and it's going to be there for a while, to be honest, for pretty much, I think, most of the year, but I'm going to see towards the end. I'm pretty sure that in the chart 3 phase, it actually finally switches into Aquarius. But for you, so while it is going through Pisces, and it has been going through Pisces again for a while, this has most likely been a pretty trying time for you career-wise. Now, of course, to some extent, this also depends on what else is going on in the natal horoscope and what planets are sitting there. And, all this, where's Jupiter in your natal chart, all this stuff, right? But it could be a more than a regular trying time for you, especially again if you also have Rahu Dasha going on, or Rahu Antardasha, so the period of times, the cycles of life that are ruled by Rahu. It would most likely activate this even further. So you may have, dealt with people who were deceitful, maybe people who tried to, swindle you one way or another. Another thing that Rahu does is a lot of ups and downs. So it could be that, it could even lead to something like career loss, or I don't want to say career loss because that's dramatic, but job loss, like unexpected ups and downs, unexpected changes with respect to the career. And we have the 9th Lord, and since, by the way, it is the 9th house Lord, Rahu, transiting through the 10th house, this could mean that more than usual, you have had the chance or somehow the necessity even of working with people from foreign lands, foreign backgrounds. So, because Rahu is foreigners, and also 9th house is connected to faraway lands, travel. Another thing is, I would say maybe for some of you, it could also mean that you had to travel for work. But I think in most cases, this just meant that you had foreigners coming to you with opportunities for employment. All right, that's pretty much what I see with the Rahu in the 10th, though. Rahu aspecting the 2nd house as well. This could also show that, there may have been some distance with the family of origin. Distance from the family of origin. Maybe potential conflict with the family of origin. There could have been some kind of a tense relationship with the family of origin, one way or another. However, since Rahu also co-rules the ninth house, this could also have to deal with some kind of a travel situation involving the family of origin. Like, I don't know, you travel together with someone from your family of origin, or you finally met them for the first time in a long time, or they came to visit you for the first time in a long time. It could mean a lot of things. But there's some kind of element of travel connected to family of origin. Aside from that, second house is also the house of what you value. So you may have especially valued ninth house themes during this time, and you will continue to do so because, like I said, this transit is going to be going on for a while until the chart 3 phase this year. So you may value things that come from foreign origin, things that have to do with spirituality, higher education. Also, when it comes to your taste in food, your diet, you may have started craving more exotic foods than usual, like eating things that have, that come from foreign cultures, you know. That's pretty Rahuvian. And Rahu's aspect on the 6th house, again, kind of goes into that theme of, it's a continuation of that theme of the 10th house. So when it comes to like your work environment and day-to-day routines, you may have dealt with a lot more ups and downs, a lot more chaos. Rahu also likes chaos, and especially if you have the 8th house lord, for instance, involved with the 10th or the 6th houses, it would have further emphasized this theme of ups and downs, sudden changes, and, you know, a general feeling of chaos and turmoil. And the aspect on the 6th house could have shown, again, like maybe it was more difficult than usual for you to stick to a daily routine, or there were all kinds of like sudden changes in your daily routines. Like, I don't know, let's say you always took the bus at the same time in the morning, and now that bus maybe had an accident, or it was no longer functioning on your route, or stuff like that. You know, like all kinds of unexpected stuff may have happened with the 6th house. Of course, let's not forget that 6th house is also the house of health. And since Rahu is co-ruling the 9th house, this could show maybe potentially getting sick while traveling. That could be a thing. Also shown some kind of a sudden improvement in your career, like getting recognition, getting more respect, maybe getting a promotion, something like that, or some kind of a leadership position. Okay, aside from that, Saturn transiting through the 9th house. Again, most commonly the theme here is that you might come across all kinds of frustrations and obstacles when it comes to 9th house themes. So 9th house can show, again, travel, especially traveling to foreign lands. It tends to show long-term, long-distance travel. It also can show higher education, master's degree and above, most likely above actually, specialized courses, anything that has to deal with like expanding your education. PhDs and whatnot, all right, degrees and all that. Aside from that, it also rules the relationship with the father figure, and relationship with teachers, gurus. In your case, because Saturn is also ruling the 8th house, it can show the in-laws. Not just the in-laws, but the family of origin of your romantic partner. So because of this, and also the transit going on in the 9th house, this could show potential obstacles and hurdles, connected to this. So For instance, you might have come across unpleasant situations during traveling, maybe more than usual. Like just things not going your way, you know. Unexpected obstacles, unexpected frustrations, delays when it comes to travel as well. Maybe a lot of delays in your flights or your um, plane, your not flights and planes, yeah, the same thing. But your trains, whatever, you know what I mean, like delays in things, maybe issues with lodgings, all kinds of frustrations could have happened there. And this could also have to deal with a family of origin of the spouse or the partner, in the sense that, I don't know, something could have happened with the family of origin of your partner. Some kind of hardships may have befallen them during this time, or might befall them during this time. And yeah, that could cause frustrations and, of course, grief to everyone in the family. The aspect of Saturn falling onto the 11th house is definitely showing that you're going to be making a lot of conscious effort to expand your social circle, maybe, or at least to maintain your social circle, like maintain good interpersonal relationships, maintaining a friendship circle and acquaintances, you know, keeping an active social life as much as possible. There could also be a lot of good moments involving the, you know, friendship circle and acquaintances in general. This might also show a stronger than average desire to participate in large group events like concerts or plays or anything that involves an audience, really, or any kind of large group of people. Or just getting involved in maybe even like your community, you know, wanting to socialize more than usual, basically. And then there's also, of course, the aspect of you having to put in a lot of work in these things. Even though there's also some benefits to be had from this, because Saturn again rules the ninth house. Sorry, Saturn actually rules the eighth house, yeah. Well, and the ninth house, yeah, with Rahu. Because it rules the eighth house, though, so there might be also some positives, but also some negatives. And with the eighth house, again, we have that element of unpredictability, of sudden ups and downs, things that kind of throw you off balance, you know, last minute changes, maybe, or anything that would fall under the realm of an accident or, you know, a twist of fate, things that are beyond human control. Might interfere, let's say, in your ability to attend 11th house matters, which is maybe concerts, you know, maybe anything that is kind of like a social event, maybe even meeting your friends. 11th house can also show older siblings, so that could also be a thing, you know. There might be ups and downs in the relationship to older siblings. It's also, Saturn is also aspecting the third house, by the way, so it might also show ups and downs in the relationship with the younger siblings as well. um, Third house is also connected to neighbors, the neighborhood, so, and also communications. The third house, from a medical point of view, it can also show the respiratory system. It can show the hands, the arms, the shoulders. So there could have been ups and downs, potential obstacles, and even accidents involving these areas. So since this is the neighborhood, for instance, one of your neighbors could have been burglarized during this time. Or you could have had a sudden fallout with a neighbor, for instance, or, you know, all kinds of things involving the neighbor, or again, the younger sibling, or could be the health again as well. With Jupiter ruling, sorry, the ninth house naturally for you. Sorry, Saturn, not Jupiter. Don't know why I was thinking about Jupiter. But Saturn is ruling the ninth house, which is, you know, a benefic house. And then transiting by aspect towards the third house, this is basically going to heighten your intellectual abilities. You might feel like you are more drawn to investigative thinking during this time. You might enjoy mysteries more than usual. You might like research more than usual. That's another thing. Maybe your knowledge of psychology is going to grow during this time. And you might even pick up some kind of a higher education or some specialized courses in something to do with, especially something to do with the 8th house or the 9th house. So it could be a specific field of higher education. It could be academia. It could be publishing as well. So you might feel drawn to publishing, writing more than usual. And it would be favorable for you to pick up these kinds of activities as well. With the 8th house, it could be getting into something like psychology or anything involving research. It could also show learning more about finances, managing finances, especially joint finances, because again, this could be about the cohabitation with a partner. 8th house is the second house from the 7th, so it has to deal with how you manage your finances as a couple together with your partner. Of course, it could also be about learning about investments, banking, anything that has to do with managing other people's money, really. This could also be a time when you might be reaping slow and steady rewards for long-term investments that you may have made as well. And of course, it's also a good time for you to invest. But think about the long term and look for, slow and steady gain instead of risky transactions that might promise a fast gain. So yeah, that's the energy of Saturn that likes to go for things that are sure, money in the bank is money in the bank. Okay, that's something that I see, and also the aspect on the 6th house. This just shows, especially since the 6th house again is, Saturn's 10th aspect. This has to deal with career, and then Saturn is the Lord of Karma. So it is showing that, and in your case, it's also Jupiter, the Lord of the 10th house, also aspecting the 6th house. So this is showing that there's some kind of a big situation happening with respect to your career, with your work environment. You will see that when it comes to employment, there will be ups and downs in the sense that you might come across frustrations. It might be more difficult than usual to find a job. But then part of the time during this transit, you might also be really fortunate in finding just the right place at the right time. Getting some good opportunities to grow. And again, I'm also seeing this really strong theme of 12th house energy, 9th house energy. So things that have to deal with working with foreigners for foreign companies. There's a lot of foreign exchange going on during this transit period. Okay, this is pretty much the main thing that I see about the chart number 1 phase. So moving on to the chart number 2 phase of Gemini. Let's see, this is going to be from March 26th to June 8th, 2025, roughly. And during this time, Saturn is going to be moving into Pisces. It used to be in Aquarius previously. Rahu is staying in Pisces. Ketu is in Virgo. And during this time, Jupiter will actually switch signs. So it will start out being in Taurus from March 26th to about May 13th. After which it will move into Gemini. So it's moving into your ascendant from May 13th to June 8th, 2025. All right. So the main thing, though, is still the fact that Saturn, Rahu are conjunct into your 10th house. And this will tend to show challenges, all right? So it's bringing a lot of emphasis onto your career again. And I have to say it will bring some challenges, definitely, because Saturn is the lord of karma. It is the lord of wanting to work hard. You know, it's the kind of planet that is going to push you to work hard, and it's not going to be very forgiving. So you have to be very thorough during this time, because like any little mistake can be held against you when it comes to your work environment. Also, because Saturn is ruling the ninth house, falling into the 10th house, this can be a positive thing in the sense that you could have a mentor or a boss that you get along with very well. That can even be kind of a paternal figure for you. But on the other hand, this can also show that you might have the opportunity to get a promotion in your work environment. Some kind of a higher position where you're going to be like a mentor, a manager, a team leader, you know, maybe get more responsibilities than usual. Aside from that, Lord of the 8th house again is also transiting through your 10th house. So this is further emphasizing the ups and downs in the career. I have to, you know, warn you about this. It's really a good idea during this time to become resourceful, right? Because Saturn is ruling the 8th house. So you know that ups and downs are going to happen. The question is, how big are the swings going to be, you know? But generally with the 8th house, you know, aspecting the 10th, one thing you have to be really careful about is make sure that you don't become the subject of gossip. There might be situations where people might try to damage your reputation. You know, don't get dragged into office politics. As long as you can avoid office politics as much as possible, just mind your own business, you're going to be fine. But you might come across, you know, some naysayers during this time. You might come across, like I said, gossip, unnecessary gossip. And I don't want to say backstabbers because that sounds a little bit too dramatic, but that couldn't be completely excluded either, right? So there might be people who suddenly decide that they are against you, or just, you know, this general feeling maybe of being in a very cutthroat work environment where it's, you know, survival. It's like Survivor Island, you know, you have to watch your back every step along the way. Yeah, so it does show potentially more challenges than usual, I have to say. This is potentially going to be the most challenging part of the year for you, especially when it comes to career. Now, Saturn and Rahu, of course, 10th house, of course, also has to deal with the father's reputation, the father's career. So it could be that the relationship with your father or father figures could become particularly tense during this time. There might be a higher level of detachment than usual from the father figure. There might be some kind of a loss of reputation of the father figure. That's another thing. But I always mention this as a disclaimer. A lot depends on individual horoscopes, because you could have placements that overpower a lot of the negative sides of these aspects. You could also have aspects that overpower the positive sides of these aspects. So it is important to look at the full picture, but these are still going to be general trends, so it's important for you to take them into account. And then Saturn is also very, on the, you know, the bright side, let's say, it's a very determined, hardworking energy. So Saturn going through the 10th house can also kind of make you question your career. Especially if you are not in a good career, right? If you're not happy in your trajectory, it can bring some pretty massive dissatisfactions, because basically Saturn is going to make anything that is not solid crumble. Let me put it like that. So anything that has not been solidly built, tried and tested, and, you know, constructed over a long period of time, and being very, very thorough, whether this is your career, whether it's also the relationship with your father, maybe to some extent, anything that's connected to the 10th house, your reputation, your status, all of those things are going to be potentially crumbling, right, with the Saturn's pressure. So if you have been stuck in a career that you absolutely hated, you're going to find it insufferable during this time, and you might even, you know, lose it, or you might lose a job just because Saturn is going to, you know, put a mirror in front of you and make you think about, is this the person that you want to be? Are you in the place that you really want to be in? Or should you be honest with yourself and actually pursue something that is, well, more to your liking, so to speak. That's one way to look at it. And then Rahu still co-rules again. So Rahu and Saturn on the positive side do co-rule the ninth house. So the ninth house is a positive house still. So despite all of the challenges, if you pretty much play your cards right, let me put it like this. So if you are responsible, if you are hardworking, if you are thorough, if you are honest in all of your dealings at work and honest with yourself, first and foremost, you're going to be reaping a lot of rewards as well. There could be a slow and steady climb up the corporate ladder, for instance, or up any kind of hierarchical chain. There might be, of course, a recognition of your efforts, and there might be, you know, some new opportunities coming in, like of employment, of promotion, etc., right? So some positive things happening as well. However, for the most part, it will seem like the career will take up a lot of your attention during this time, if not most of your attention. And the third aspect towards the 12th house, this shows a conscious effort to potentially detach from the world. It can also show a conscious effort towards sleep. Maybe your sleep patterns have been, you know, out of whack in recent history, and you realize you really want to develop healthy sleeping patterns. Another thing is it could be, well, 12th house can also be hidden enemies, hidden affairs, stuff like that. So this is kind of like a small warning for people who might be involved in, let's say, affairs, illicit affairs. Especially since Saturn is ruling the 8th house, and also it is going through your 10th house. If you have been involved, if you have had romantic interests, crushes, flirtations with people at work, be careful, because this could definitely be a source of, you know, gossip, and even worse, you know, like a serious dent on your reputation, potentially. But in general, if you have secret affairs, romantic liaisons, during this time, Saturn might really, you know, shake you up here. So there might be some kind of unpleasant situations happening surrounding this. Like you might be, you might be, what's the word? What's the way to put it? Like exposed. Yeah, that's the word. You might be exposed. Like an affair might show up to the surface basically during this time. But aside from that, Saturn ruling the 8th house, also aspecting the 12th house, in a very literal sense, this could mean traveling with your partner's family to some faraway place, or traveling to see your partner's family in a very faraway place. That's another aspect of the 12th house. Another thing is anything that has to deal with like subconscious, meditation, dreaming. These might be areas that you're going to be putting conscious effort into. You might feel called to put conscious effort into these areas. You want to develop your, you know, let's say the connection to your subconscious, or find better inner peace and balance. You might feel more drawn to yoga, energy work, things that are, you know, subtle and kind of help you, you know, find that balance between the physical world and, let's say, the more spiritual, esoteric world. I did mention sleep. The not so positive, probably the least positive, let's say, not to put it negatively exactly, but okay, I'm gonna say it. It might be negative as well, because Saturn is aspecting the house of losses, and then we also have Saturn ruling the 8th and 9th houses. So what this could show is potential losses when it comes to, again, worst case scenario can be something to do with your spouse's family of origin. Some kind of a loss there, or some kind of difficult situations, maybe ups and downs happening, maybe arguments, something like that with your partner's family of origin. Financial difficulties because of the partner's family of origin, and ultimately losses financially because of the partner's family of origin. That could also be a thing. It could also show a stronger desire to study things that have to deal with the esoteric, with, you know, higher education, religion, spiritual fields. You might be seeking a teacher or a educational program or maybe a guru that is coming from faraway lands. Well, seeking or like pursuing, building some kind of a connection or towards that person. We also have Rahu aspecting the second, the sixth houses. With Rahu aspecting the second, this can show ups and downs when it comes to your savings. Even though Rahu is ruling the ninth house as well, so if you make the most of it, it can also show gains. So it can even show sudden gains, especially when it comes to the ability to get an asset. Again, you could also see traveling involving your family of origin. So again, could be traveling with the family of origin, meeting the family of origin. Yeah, there's a lot of travel and family going on here during this time. And then we also have the aspect, see, another thing is Ketu falling into the fourth house. And this has been going on actually in the first house phase as well. And I haven't really tackled it, but I'm going to look at it right now. So, what Ketu shows, I mean, let me start by saying that when Jupiter is in Taurus, this is not going to be, you're mostly going to see a positive aspect. But Ketu in the fourth house tends to show kind of an isolation. It could also give you a kind of sense of loneliness when it comes to the people you're living with, because the fourth house is the living situation, the home environment. So it could feel, it could be like worst case scenario, you even have this feeling of being alone when around other people, like a really deep sense of emotional isolation. That's the worst case scenario. But while Jupiter is in Taurus, to a large extent, the negative aspect of this is mitigated because Jupiter is aspecting Ketu, so it's softening up the energy there. But once Jupiter moves into Gemini and it's taken away its light from Ketu and moving, actually aspecting the fifth house, this could be, a more painful aspect, depending on what else is going on there. But especially since you also have Saturn looking at the fourth house. Even though the seventh aspect of Saturn is not the most negative, it can also have potentially negative impact, in the sense that it could, like I said, so it could bring a sense of isolation. Best case scenario about this is you could be more minimalist than usual. You might be downsizing your home environment, getting rid of things that you don't need. In the most very specific thing that I could say about this, but it's gonna be there, and maybe some people need to hear it. You might even be getting a sense that there's something supernatural happening in your home during this time. So, yeah, worse. Another thing that is not so supernatural could be an insect invasion in the house, so be careful with that. Another thing is because Ketu is co-ruling the sixth house, which is health issues and also arguments. Again, this can also point towards arguments with the partner, again, or people that you are cohabitating with. Whether it's the romantic partner or family or whoever else is going there, you might be having more bickering than usual. But another thing to take into account is fourth house could show the chest area, the stomach area, so you might have potential health issues connected to this. Be careful. So, again, if you have any symptoms connected to this, they're not to be neglected. Just take care of yourself. That's pretty much the advice that I can give. So it's not going to be anything major, and either way, I cannot make very specific predictions based on a general horoscope, general transits reading, but yeah, there is that risk there. You might also feel a stronger desire than usual to get a pet. Or you just might have a situation where you have to live with animals. I know this is, again, very specific, but somehow animals are coming into your house. For some of you, okay? It doesn't have to be for everyone, because the sixth house can mean many things. So some people will experience one side, other people will experience a different side. Depends on what else is going on in the individual horoscope. I have to also say, though, with Saturn as looking at the fourth house, ruling the eighth house, and one thing you have to, again, another thing is you could be cohabitating with, since Saturn is ruling the ninth house, it's ruling the eighth house, you could be living in the same space as your family of origin, especially your mother, someone from your mother's family. Also maybe with your in-laws again. Of course, it doesn't have to be, it could be just for a short period of time, because again, there's also an element of travel going on. Also sharing with your father, maybe a teacher or a guru as well. For those of you who are, you know, seeking to move into a dorm, especially in a faraway place like abroad, this is also a confirmation that you might be going through that. It's a good time to explore living in a dorm or someplace far away from home. Jupiter, while Jupiter is, so it starts out being in Taurus, I've covered that already, so you can watch that in the chart one phase. But when Jupiter is moving in the first house of your ascendant, one thing to watch out for is potential self-indulgence. As in, be careful that your waistline doesn't expand, because you might be feeling more self-indulgent than usual. Aside from that, Jupiter is also ruling the 10th house, falling into you know, transiting through your first house. So this is really positive in the sense that you could be getting more recognition. Your career all of a sudden will bring you a higher level of confidence, maybe even invigorate your energy physically, you know. But aside from that, your career aspecting the first house can also show that you're going to become even more obsessed. Okay, I don't know you, so I'm going to say, I said even more obsessed as if you're already obsessed, but maybe some of you aren't. But you're going to be more obsessed than usual with your career, with your social status, with your professional development, to the point where you're identifying a lot more with your career. All right. So identifying a lot more with your profession, maybe also trying to figure out what career defines you, or what career is going, you know, to be in alignment with who you really are and what your values are, and, you know, bring out your best potential, right? Which is what everyone wants to some extent. But these things are going to be definitely on your mind a lot more than usual. And aside from that, again, the 10th house showing the father archetype, this can also show that somehow the relationship with the father figure will come to the forefront of your psyche as well. Like, you might be rethinking how the relationship with the father figure influenced your self-perception, your sense of self, your sense of self-confidence, maybe even your physical health, because the first house is the house of the physical body. Another thing is that you might be way more self-conscious of how you appear. So when you are showing yourself, especially in professional environments, you might really have this strong urge to rethink your wardrobe, for instance, or to be a lot more controlled when it comes to what you're wearing at the workplace, you know. This might be especially true if you also have some Venus aspecting, Venus/Mercury aspecting the first house, or the first house lord in the natal chart. That Jupiter will be aspecting the 5th and the 9th houses, which are houses connected to education, ideas, intellectual activities. So during this time when Jupiter is moving into Gemini, you are definitely going to be favored in any kind of intellectual activity, maybe going back to school for those of you who are considering that, and any kind of creative activities as well. The 5th house speaks of creativity especially. So any kind of ideas that you're getting during this time, you might really want to pursue them, really look into them. And there's probably a reason why you have gotten those ideas, is all I'm going to say, especially since 5th and 9th houses are also connected to publishing and writing. These are also going to be fields where you might be particularly successful during this time. So this is, again, reminding you, this is for Jupiter going into Gemini. So I said that this is going to happen around May 13th. There's also ruling the 7th house, though. This also shows that your partner, your romantic partner, maybe even your business partner if you have one, so anyone that you're in a partnership with, a tightly knit, close-knit partnership, but usually 7th house refers to the spouse or the long-term romantic partner. If you have one, right, they're going to have a strong influence on your trajectory during this time. Like, they might really influence the way you see the world, your thought patterns, your overview of life. They might even influence, let's say, your tastes and interests in education, or not just like formal education, but any kind of education. They might influence, let's say, I don't know, what movies to see, what books to read and all that. Depending on, what the individual situation might be, this could be more or less controlling. But somehow for you, on a psyche level, basically, you might really start to define yourself through your partner, or you might start to subconsciously seek your partner's approval more than usual. Okay, so this is pretty much chart number 2. Now moving on to chart number 3, which is from June 8th to December 31st, the end of the year. It's actually until January 1st, 2026, and even later, but I stopped at the end of the year because these are predictions for 2025. So the main change is Saturn is moving into Pisces. It moves from Aquarius to Pisces. Finally, bless the Lord. Praise the Lord. And all the other deities, whatever. And then Rahu is moving into Aquarius. Is moving from Pisces into Aquarius because Rahu is moving retrograde, which means it's actually going backwards on the zodiac. So Rahu moving into Aquarius, and so basically Rahu and Saturn are switching places as opposed to the chart 2 phase. And then Jupiter is going to stay in Gemini from June 8th until roughly October 13th. And then it's going to move into Cancer on October 13th, and it will stay there until the end of 2025 and later. But I haven't checked how long it's going to stay in Cancer because, again, I'm only looking at 2025. So what we have here is Saturn is still impacting your career. So this is still showing that, it's a very significant time for you career-wise. And we also have, so Jupiter is in Gemini, still in the beginning phase here, and it's ruling the 10th house, right? And then it's aspecting the 5th and 9th houses. So career is really going to take up a lot of your time and energy. You're going to have a lot of responsibilities at work. That's another thing, especially during this time that Rahu has moved out. So Saturn is having like a monopoly on the 10th house. Of course, there will be minor transits throughout this time. So at some point, you're going to have Sun going through the 10th house. Of course, everyone has Sun going through their 10th house for 1 month of the year, if you catch my drift, because the Sun is going through each sign of the zodiac for 30 days of the year. But, let's cast small aspects aside, of course, because I did say that I was only going to focus on these long-lasting transits because these are the general ones that are the most impactful and the most long-lasting. But during this time, Saturn is going to have pretty much monopoly over the 10th house when it comes to a long-lasting transit, which means that you're going to have a lot of responsibilities to shoulder at work. So you might feel kind of left out in the cold sometimes when it comes to your work environment. You are definitely going to feel like maybe you have to work harder than usual to get the same results or to get the same amount of income, maybe as well. There might also be some kind of frustrations involving work superiors, co-workers, people at work, basically. Bear in mind, again, I do remind you this, that Saturn is still ruling the 8th house in your horoscope, so there's still that risk of potential naysayers, backstabbers, gossip, ridicule, something happening around that when it comes to your work environment. So you want to avoid drama as much as possible, since, again, the same aspect is still aspecting the 12th house. The same planet, Saturn, is still aspecting the 12th house as well, which I remind you has to do with illicit affairs, among other things. So be really careful, because during this time, if you're not careful, you might really go through, something negative at the workplace that could really taint your reputation. So, like I said, just try to avoid office drama as much as possible. Aside from that, there might also be ups and downs, definitely. There might be ups and downs when it comes to your career. So, generally with the 8th house energy, there are these situations where things change overnight, where you have little time to prepare. I don't know, like, for instance, overnight, the boss might tell you, I need that report by 5 a.m. or something. Or I don't know, something like overnight you find out that your boss is being replaced by someone you don't like, stuff like that. Because 8th house transit, so the lord of the 8th house is going through your 10th house. This is really stimulating your resourcefulness. It's stimulating your ability to adapt, right? To rise to the challenge, basically. 8th house is all about challenges. It's all about ups and downs. So expect to see some ups and downs during this time. It's also a good idea to, plan for rainy days when it comes to your money. Don't splurge. Don't, even if you are starting this year in a good financial situation, it's not a good idea to throw money outside the window, like to splurge on all kinds of things. Make sure that you have a good amount of, savings to have for a rainy day. I'm not trying to necessarily say that you're going to lose your job during this time, but it is a possibility. And generally, when it comes to people who tend to lose their jobs, they know that, right? So, and that's most likely because they already have configurations in their horoscope that, tend to show a lot of volatility when it comes to their professional life. Yeah, so that could happen. Ups and downs could happen. Even if you don't lose your job, it wouldn't be excluded that, like I said, you might be working harder for the same amount of money. That could mean budget cuts, salary cuts, increase of taxes, all kinds of stuff could happen, right? 8th house, by the way, also rules taxation, right? So maybe you have the same income, but your taxes could increase during this time, is all I'm saying. I hate to be the bringer of bad news, but predictions are not about sugar, spice, and everything nice. They are to give you a heads up so that you prepare in advance. All right. Aside from that, there's all the similar themes that you had in the chart 2 phase are continuing with respect to Saturn. The same focus towards meditation and, learning about balancing the inner world or the balance between the conscious and the unconscious mind. There might also be some ups and downs, by the way, with respect to the relationship with the partner as well. Because Saturn is ruling the 8th house and it's aspecting the 7th. Saturn aspecting the 7th, again, this is not a massively challenging aspect, but it is a pretty challenging aspect, okay? So not just that it might bring ups and downs with the relationship with the partner, it might also, sometimes, again, depending on your situation. So if you have been with a person who is not good for you and you know it deep down, this could even, lead to serious conflicts in the relationship, depending on the situation, right? Because, again, Saturn doesn't like anything that is superficial. But if you are in a stable relationship that is built on real compatibility and mutual support and thoroughness in general, things that Saturn likes, things that are made to stand the test of time, then you're not going to have anything to worry about. Aside from that, Rahu moving into the 9th house, aspecting the 1st and the 5th houses, especially during the first time when Jupiter is going to be in Gemini. So in the first period from June 8th to October 13th, which is quite a few months there, Jupiter and Rahu are both going to aspect these air houses for you, which are, actually they're not the air houses, they're air signs, but they are the fire houses. So this is showing a lot, even more of an emphasis on all of these energies than in the chart 2 phase. So a lot more focus on, developing your sense of identity, individuality, asserting yourself, establishing boundaries. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to work environment, so in a way, it's kind of like a period of rediscovery. Maybe it sounds cheesy, but that's pretty much how I see it here. Also, Rahu being the co-ruler of the 9th house, that's even more emphasized, fire meets fire, sort of. Anyway, again, there is also that emphasis on higher education, education of all kinds, actually. There's also an emphasis on finding a guru, maybe getting back in touch with a belief system, maybe even getting involved with a religion, depending on what is going on in the individual chart, especially if you have Saturn, Jupiter aspects, like Saturn aspecting Jupiter or Jupiter and Saturn conjunct or opposite, mutually aspecting one another. You might feel drawn to organized religion during this time. This could also apply if you have Jupiter, Saturn very strongly conjunct in the Navamsha as well. Or maybe Saturn aspecting the 9th house of the Navamsha. It's like, even if you have, let's say you were raised Catholic or something and didn't care about the religion for 20 years, like suddenly you're going to start to feel that pull to experience it once again, like to re-explore it. Rahu and Jupiter are expanding, they're expanding these areas. So this can definitely show that your sense of confidence is going to increase during this time. Your physical strength and vitality are going to increase during this time. You're going to see definitely a boost in your creativity. You could be getting flashes of genius during this time because Rahu is the planet of innovation. So, especially, by the way, during this time, so I repeat, from June 8th to October 13th, this is probably going to be the best time for you to look into investments and even playing the lottery. I'm not encouraging gambling here, but if there is a chance for you to win anything during this year, it's this period. This period is going to be the highest chance of you winning anything. Actually, the second period is not going to be bad, but I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So when Jupiter moves into Rahu as well, Cancer. But this period right here, this is the biggest one because both Rahu and Jupiter are to do with expansion. They're aspecting the 5th house, which is the house of sudden gains. Yeah. And the 9th house again. These are houses that are connected to money. 5th and 9th houses are connected to money, and 5th house especially is about speculative gains. For those of you who are interested in having children or meeting someone romantically, starting to date someone, this is also the best period for you. Something could be happening, where you could be meeting someone significant, you could start dating. But in order to see the higher likelihood of this, of course, you would have to look at individual horoscopes. House can also show again that you could be finding a guru or a teacher of foreign origin. This doesn't necessarily mean that, you're going to be going to an ashram or something. When I say finding a guru or a teacher, it could just be you're starting to read someone's books. I don't know, you start to read Osho's books, or what's his name, Eckhart Tolle or something, But like you're gonna discover either a writer or something, or some kind of a spiritual teacher maybe that is gonna really broaden your horizons that you might feel particularly drawn to. And I mentioned, a few people that were kind of known in the spiritual field, but it doesn't have to be just that. It could just be, heck, it could be a YouTuber that you, I don't know, maybe is doing comedy shows and yet you like what they say about politics. And you start listening to them and, I don't know, somehow listening to their videos is opening your horizons, and making you rethink, maybe even revolutionize the way that you see the world in some way. So there is kind of like an opening, a broadening of horizons. And there's also a strong desire to achieve academically, more specifically for those of you who have already been involved in some kind of an academic interest during this time, or in previous times. You're going to feel an even stronger desire to pursue higher education, to do well in higher education. And there will be plenty of opportunities for you to do so. So if you have any kind of exams during this time, you're definitely going to be favored. This doesn't mean, of course, that you can just not study anything and you're going to magically pass the exam, but things are going to work in your favor. You know? Jupiter is going to be moving into Cancer on October 13th. That means it's going to be moving into your second house. So, second house is the house of value, self-worth. It's also the house of savings, fixed assets, appetite as well, diet, family of origin. Did I mention that? It's family of origin as well. So, basically, Jupiter falling into the second house is actually going to bring a lot of positive influences to all of these areas, especially since Jupiter is exalted in the sign of Cancer. So, this is going to be a great time for you to acquire new assets, right? Jupiter is ruling the 7th house as well, so relationship with the spouse most likely is going to be good, or the romantic partner. Business partners as well. Jupiter is also ruling the 10th house, of course, let's not forget. So during this time, you might have a higher than usual increase in your finances. You might have an ability to save more money, an ability to buy even, any kind of fixed assets, like I said, including property. And Jupiter can also show relations with the family of origin are going to be better than usual during this time. If you have had any kind of ongoing conflicts, they will tend to dissipate during this time. Jupiter is aspecting the second, by the way, also potentially increasing your appetite. So again, during this time, you will have to watch for becoming too self-indulgent when it comes to your food intake. But also, last but not least, this is a positive impact on your self-esteem. Second house is the house of self-worth and value and all that. For those of you who have gone through therapy maybe, or have had mental health issues, this is a positive time for you to actually reach some kind of a breakthrough when it comes to understanding yourself, understanding your psyche, anything that has to deal with psychology, really. So, of course, if you actually activate in a psychology-related field, this is going to be particularly lucrative time for you, and not just lucrative, but also a time of, breakthroughs when it comes to maybe your practice or the way you see things. And you're generally going to have a stronger ability to diagnose and a stronger ability to point out what's wrong with people to some extent, Aside from that, Jupiter will be aspecting the other Earth houses in your horoscope, which, are also called the houses of desires in Vedic astrology. The 2nd, the 6th, and the 10th houses. So, on the positive side, this is definitely lightening things up when it comes to your career, your finances overall. So, not only will you be getting more income, of course, this doesn't mean that you have to stop working because you're going to win the lottery, but it shows that opportunities are going to be, coming in more easily. And since Jupiter is aspecting the Saturn grumpiness over there, sitting in the 10th house, this is also showing that, the 10th house career situation is softening up as well. So you're going to see an improvement in the work environment, relationship with your bosses, Relationship with the father figure in particular as well could be more positive. Relationship with authority figures in general, you could see an increase of your social status as well. Your appreciation at work is going to increase. People appreciating you more, I mean. Aside from that, because Jupiter is ruling the 7th house, you could also see opportunities to work with new partners, you know, in favorable situations. You know, you could be getting a new partner that you get along with that is really helping you grow career-wise. Of course, this could also literally mean that your romantic partner could be helping you out during this time when it comes to your career. Maybe connecting you to the right people or giving you some solid advice when it comes to your career that would really improve your circumstances. So it's actually, if your partner comes up with some kind of an idea or a suggestion during this time about what to do with respect to your career or a job that they would like you to apply to, it's a good idea for you to take their advice, because most likely something positive is going to come out of it. Another great blessing of Jupiter is the fact that it is looking at the 6th house, and it's going to be pretty strongly in control of the 6th house, at least when it comes to the long-term transits, excluding the minor transits like Venus, Mars, and all that, which could be tainting things a bit. But for the most part, you know, Jupiter looking at the 6th house is showing that this is a good time for you to heal any kind of health issues that you might be having. So things are going to get easier health-wise. On the other hand, of course, because Jupiter can also be self-indulgent, especially since it's moving through Cancer, which is the stomach, be careful that you don't become too self-indulgent. Again, if there are likely to be any kind of, let's say, health issues during this time, there might be health issues connected to too much self-indulgence, you know. Health issues connected to you overeating are going to be at high risk during this time. So as long as you watch your diet, you're going to be fine. And also, same thing with your daily routines, with exercise and stuff, you might find it harder than usual to maintain some kind of a diet exercise routine. You might, this is especially true for those of you who want to get a job in something to do with healthcare or service or you know, any kind of job where you are at service actually in some way, but especially healthcare and or pets or any kind of competition. That's another thing. So if you have to deal with some kind of a competition when it comes to your career, this can even apply to you if you're a student, let's say, and you want to take an exam, you're going to be favored during this time. Same thing if you are employed or even if you have your own business. You could be really winning against your competition during this time. Again, this is also going to be a good time for you to get pets. You might really, you might really want to get pets. You feel maybe drawn to animals more than usual, you know, like you want to spend time with animals or something. And of course, if you want to activate as a vet, this is a great time for you to progress when it comes to your career. But if you get a pet during this time, it's going to be a positive experience. And if you're thinking, well, when is getting a pet a negative experience? Well, talk to me after Saturn has transited through your 6th house and you, yeah. Talk to me, okay? Just that's all I'm gonna say. If you ever experience Saturn through the 6th house and you have a pet at that time, comment in the comment section with stuff that has happened or stuff that is gonna happen, because you're gonna see the difference. Believe me, you're gonna see the difference, all right? But of course, there are nuances to be taken into account when it comes to individual horoscopes and what is going on there. This is pretty much what I have to say for you. This has been it with the chart number 3 phase, and I hope you have enjoyed this reading. Of course, again, I hope that this is going to be useful, and make sure that you come back to it throughout 2025. Comment in the comment section with anything you want to share, feedback about this, what you have seen resonates, maybe what doesn't resonate. You know, any kind of feedback that you want to share about anything I've said in this video, as long as you keep it respectful, would be welcome. Aside from that, if you have liked the video, I will remind you once again to please subscribe to my channel. If you have found value in any of my videos, it's the easiest way to support me and it is free. Also, consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. And aside from that, if you are interested in a private consultation, you can check out the video description. I will leave my email address there. You can email me for a pricing list, reading options, and other details. Also, if you would like to join the membership section, you can find more information about that in the introductory part of this video. And if you would like to support my channel further, of course, you can do so by sharing this video with as many people as you would like. Also, tipping if you feel like it would be greatly appreciated. And last but not least, I do also have a tarot channel, and I will be linking that in the video description as well. I've opened the tarot channel a lot more recently than this channel, but I do enjoy tarot a lot as well. So if you are interested in it, go ahead and check it out. Maybe subscribe to that channel. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you at my next video. Bye.